Welcome to the Sustainable Region. I'm Vanessa Timmer. Today we're recapping a landmark event in regional planning, the 2011 Zero Waste Challenge Conference that took place in March. Over 800 people participated from government, business, nonprofits, and more. It was a packed day, and in the next half hour, we're going to give you a taste of it. You'll have a chance to hear the excellent advice and information that came out of these sessions throughout today's show. And you can download the videos of the full sessions online. Get them at metrovancouver.org. So to get started, here's a backgrounder on Metro Vancouver's zero waste strategy.
In our region, we make 1,452,000 metric tons of garbage each year. It is a complex system of multiple interactions that creates this waste. Millions of choices made by people every day, day after day. Metro Vancouver's Zero Waste Challenge strategy, a commitment to increase our recycling rate to 70% by 2015, aim for 80% by 2020, and reduce the waste each of us generates 10% by 2020. There are 4 materials to divert: organics, paper, wood, plastic. There are 4 sectors that generate waste: single-family, multifamily, businesses and institutions, and construction and demolition. And there are 4 levers we use to create change: prices, infrastructure, regulations, communications. Almost half our waste is organics, so we will ban food waste from our garbage. And as the region densifies, the majority of the population will live in multifamily households. But recycling for these families poses unique challenges to overcome. So multifamily complexes will be required to provide space for recycling. Construction, renovation, and demolition activities are the source of over 1.3 million annual tons of waste materials generated in Metro Vancouver each year. 15% of the waste stream is primarily wood, so we will ban wood waste from disposal. Businesses and institutions contribute about 40%, or 1.2 million tons annually, of the overall waste generated in the region. Much of this is recyclable. So we will mandate separation and collection of recyclable materials and organics at businesses and institutions. But we need to also target production. Cradle-to-cradle design must become the norm, so products are easily recycled at the end of their useful life. Done well, extended producer responsibility is a tool towards this goal. It shifts the responsibility and cost from taxpayers and municipalities to consumers and producers. We are all part of the solution. It is the millions of choices we make daily that have created our current problem. We need to make it easier and more desirable to choose to reduce waste.
Welcome back to the Sustainable Region summary of the Zero Waste Challenge Conference held in spring 2011 in Burnaby. Keynote speaker Robert Lang, a New York City director with the Department of Sanitation, was a huge hit. He shared the trials, tribulations, and successes of getting a city of 8 million people to recycle. If you're involved in waste management in multifamily settings, you'll want to see that. After that, we have keynote speaker Clint Malman of London Drugs, who've taken a zero-waste business approach, and it's paid off. If you're looking to be a leader, you'll be inspired by his comments. Here we go. New York City's Robert Lang and Canada's Clint Malman of London Drugs.
So next up, we're very pleased to have Robert Lang with us. Robert Lang is the Director of the Bureau of Waste Reduction, Reuse, and Recycling with New York City's Department of Sanitation. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Lang.
Thanks. The big challenge before all of us, planners, solid waste management people, elected officials, advocates, and the local citizenry, is how do we increase waste prevention and recycling in a manner that is first and foremost successful, while at the same time cost-effective, and ultimately not perceived by our citizens as unacceptably burdensome. But in a city as large as New York City, even mandatory recycling and the possibility of receiving a summons is not always sufficient motivation to compel compliance by all of our citizens. Enforcing against citizens' noncompliance has always been controversial. Adding to the controversy is the fact that our recycling officers have peace officer status. In other words, they're like New York City policemen. They carry a gun. The reason for this is quite simple. At the introduction of the law, we wanted to allow our recycling police to exercise a level of discretion, and the peace officer status was the only civil service title available that provided that level of training for people to acquire that kind of discretion. Under our recycling law, we have a summons known as an R11. The purpose of the summons is to single out those residential buildings, usually multiple family, always multiple family, in which tenants source separate their recyclables as required by law, but in which the building management or staff knowingly and purposely take those same recyclables and set them out in black bags as trash. If the department determines that this is occurring with sufficient frequency, we can notify the building landlord and management that effective on a particular day, that building must henceforth set out all of their recyclables and all of their refuse in clear bags as a precondition of our further collection of refuse and recyclables, so that each and every bag can be inspected curbside prior to collection. It usually takes, on average, a building to come into full compliance, being ticketed daily, about 3 months. I've read with great interest your Metro Vancouver zero waste paper. The strategy as articulated calls for reaching a target of 70% diversion, a number which I believe is achievable if that 70% represents the diversion rate for the region as a whole, factoring in all the sectors that comprise the region. I also think that your targets for the construction and demolition sector are well within the range of what is possible. While it is understandable why food waste is targeted by any municipality because of its significant presence in the waste stream, successfully targeting it and capturing it as planned has eluded many other jurisdictions, at least once you move beyond single-family homes to apartment buildings. While many things are possible when dealing with single-family homes, the challenges to implementation of those same programs increases exponentially as the number of residents per building increases. Regulatory agencies, municipal governments, and local advocates in the U.S. have, over the last 2 decades, all too often focused primarily upon the role of residents in the achieving of substantial diversion rates, while at the same time not noting nor properly focusing upon the fact that commercial, and in particular manufacturing or industrial waste, constitutes a far greater portion of the nation's waste stream. Metro Vancouver should be congratulated for developing a zero waste strategy which leaves no sector untargeted. I want to thank you for inviting me here today.
It's my pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, Clint Melman. Clint is the Vice President of Retail Operations and Distributions with London Drugs. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our keynote speaker. Thanks.
Thank you. London Drugs is a 100% privately owned family company, started in 1945 right here in BC, and a very proud family history. Because of that family history, it gives us enormous latitude that other companies may not have. And that is that the family's philosophy is you do things because they're the right thing to do, not because of accolades or expectations. When you have a 107-year-old family company, or 1945 in London Drugs' case, sustainability and how to survive in a very competitive world, and especially in retail where there's an onslaught of large multinational American retailers gobbling up their landscape, you learn sustainability very quickly. So our approach is fairly simple, to be quietly green first. Consumers are very confused, and in many cases, they're very angry at the greenwashing claims that are out there made by all sorts of organizations out there, and that creates a real barrier. We're a retailer, Everything we do is predicated on what you, the consumer, wants. So we tend to be a little bit more plugged into the average person on the street than what other businesses may be, because that's who walks in our store every day. The world of retail is all about trying to be authentic and unique, to attract you as a customer to come in and shop with us because we're offering you some sort of value depending on where that you perceive value to be. And that also means that consumers can smell a rat a mile away, hence why greenwashing is so important. We believe that the waste problem is best solved by local entrepreneurs, that people who will take on the challenge through government regulation and using their best talents possible will get the job done. For London Drugs, our ultimate goal would be to buy back what was our diverted waste from product back in, a perfect closed-loop system. Our studies very much reflect this stat, which is that a lack of knowledge, approximately 50% of all consumers would do more if they only knew what it was about. And I can tell you, whether you're government or private industry, we confuse the hell out of consumers. We all owe it to try and simplify things for the customer. If we do that, then we have a real great chance of making the zero waste goals that Metro Vancouver has put out a reality. If we don't do that, shame on us, because it's pretty clear what the customer is telling us. 95, call it 96% of products in a recent study had misleading claims. That's a real shame and a pox on the industry. Because what it does is it erodes the confidence in an already confused customer base that doesn't know what to do. They don't trust the labels that they see, or they don't trust the communication. In fact, referencing an article by John Ackerman in October of 2010 that said almost 90% of all green toys and baby products that quoted some sort of green or sustainability claim had absolutely no proof of their eco claims. Now, if you're a new mom, that's devastating. So for us, it's pretty clear of some of the things we have to do in our journey as we go through this. As you all know, it seems like every day we look at something that suggests a solution, it seems like the next week there's another data element that says you're wrong. You know, it's the plastic versus paper bag argument. It's the greenwashing issues. And that's tough, because sometimes when you're trying to get support from our employees or customers, they're very quick to point out all these different data elements that can stop you. The two remaining points are just do something. It's easy to justify all the reasons why you can, to think about cost, but if you don't take a step, you'll never directionally get to where you're going to go. And above all, for us, it's about being authentic, trying to do the things that you think you can do within the scope and power and influence that you have, but at the same time, it's got to be something that people feel comfortable in hearing from London Drugs to make sure that they can work in partnership with us together to help Metro Vancouver and all the communities we serve look at our waste challenges dramatically different in the future. Thank you for your time.
Welcome back to the Sustainable Region. I may as well say it. Today's show is pretty trashy. Our topic, the 2011 Zero Waste Challenge Conference. Waste is being reframed. People in Metro Vancouver are starting to see it as a resource, as an active part of the cycle of life. And they're building that into their lives and helping others to do the same. The conference featured several rapid-fire individual stories of success. So let's take a look.
So our next part of this morning's agenda is what we're calling rapid fire presentations, where we've asked leaders, whether it's in the public sector, the private sector, community groups, to come up and not just talk about in theory what could happen and to try to create a zero waste society, but what they're actually doing, what they've done, what they've learned, so that we can take experiences away, whether we're going back to government or private or nonprofit or our communities, and implement real solutions.
So we contacted a number of small businesses that specialize in repair, and with them, created a process that was not only closed-looped and ethical, but reduced our recycling. And it works very simply. We stockpile recent but broken hardware. Then we work with companies to identify the hardware that can be refurbished and reused. We sell the hardware to the small business owner at a very small cost, thus mitigating the risk to the small business owner. They refurbish it and sell it to their customers. Whatever they cannot sell comes back to Free Geek. Since the program's inception, a couple of months ago, we've already been able to redirect well over 700 pieces of hardware away from recycling and towards reuse, and we're just getting started. The lesson is a mindset, the mindset of reduce. So I challenge you all here today to adopt reduce as a mindset, and in your day-to-day lives, re-examine what it is that you're trashing instead of recycling. What are you recycling when you could be reusing, and what are you buying new when you could be buying refurbished? Thank you.
Most of the folks who come through our front door are folks who've fallen through the cracks of our society. Many have no homes at all. The common thread is that they all live in poverty and have limited opportunities elsewhere. We're a sustainable business in that the operations sustain the incomes of the folks that work there. Our results are pretty impressive, both in terms of supporting people on low income, people who live on the margins of society, but also in terms of the amount of containers that we remove from the waste stream. It's important to note that the customers that come to our front door are binners. We see between 750 and 900 binners a day, and the bottles and cans that they're bringing in are, in many cases, products that would have been destined for the waste stream. We believe that there are incredible opportunities to develop green initiatives that are sustainable environmentally and economically. We recycle beverage containers, land, and lives. Thank you very much.
I want to tell you about our success story, which is basically we were a group of neighbors in the Glenbrook North area of New Westminster who took on Metro Vancouver's Zero Waste Challenge, and we worked together and encouraged each other to basically try and reduce our garbage and just to see what was possible. We had to rethink how were we handling the waste we were creating, and were we putting it where it belonged, and rethinking what can we do to not create the waste in the first place. And this is our best success story. One of the families, they saved me their garbage for 8 weeks. 2 people, here it is. It weighs less than my shoe, like, come on. Thank you very much.
TCRS are taking youth at risk, so people who are in their mid-teens to their early 20s who are no longer involved in the school system for whatever reason and who aren't working and are at a bit of a crossroads in their lives. And what they're doing is they're providing about 13 weeks of life skills training. And then they're actually giving them 2 weeks of practical training on deconstructing a house. There we go. That's the house in Kitsilano, just as we started. That's what it looked like after 2 weeks when it was systematically taken apart and deconstructed. And what do we achieve? A 93% diversion rate when you take away all the banned materials. That's a huge accomplishment when you think about that about 40 tons of waste are produced in the average demolition of a Vancouver home. And this incredible project shows that we can actually think beyond just environmental objectives and integrate social objectives that, not only make us a greener city, but a more just and sustainable city. Thanks very much.
It is truly, truly a privilege to give the school tours. I do it twice a year. So the school tours are basically focused on the processes that urban impact provides in the marketplace. So to be clear, we focus on what 5 steps urban impact delivers. And I believe that that message clarifies for them that the effort that they make at school or at home actually, or it demonstrates that that material actually does get diverted and doesn't get sent to landfill. A green teacher is a key. If somebody really believes in the core tenets of sustainability and anything green in the environment, I can tell you that message is loud and clear, and they really are truly receptive. It truly, truly is an invigorating experience for me, and thank you for your time.
Waste reduction priorities are the theme today on The Sustainable Region. Hi, I'm Vanessa Timmer. Metro Vancouver has identified 5 key areas, And on the afternoon of the conference, the 350 attendees broke into 5 groups, each focusing on one of those priorities. The groups debated actions and barriers, and then they had their top votes analyzed and dissected by what was called the Dragon's Den, a fiery panel of experts. Let's start with 3 of those sessions: the Organics Group, the Multifamily Housing Group, and the Construction and Demolition Group.
If you'll just indulge me for a moment, I did bring some props to keep things entertaining. You didn't buy it like this, right? Nobody went to a store and bought a banana, cell phone, can of beans. Right? You bought a can of beans separately, you bought a cell phone separately, you bought a banana separately, you consumed them separately, and all we're asking folks to do is keep them separate.
I don't know why it has to be government that does everything. I mean, government does have a role, but we don't have to invest in our governments, which means greater taxes, to do more and more for the environment. There is a role for the private sector to play, and I think source-separated organics is one area where the private sector can play a pretty important role.
I think one of the unappreciated tactics that can be used when you're trying to shift social behavior is our good old friend shaming. In other words, in a multifamily building, in the lobby, instead of putting up the notice about the AGM that's coming up, you should have a picture of the owner of the suite that you know is using the chute and isn't doing the right thing in terms of recycling.
It's been proven time and again that carrots work a lot better than sticks. And the carrots of, here's the gold star, and people say, hey, how come they got the gold star? I don't like them. I'm going to beat them. So that's the type of thing you need to have if you're going to do it.
What I'm beginning to see emerge now, which I think is really exciting, is a whole range of companies coming on stream who specialize in deconstructing buildings. And I think we need to give incentives to that industry to get them going so that we have a whole range of private sector out there who are experts in pulling down buildings piece by piece.
It's got the characteristics where a local government can be extremely successful. There aren't many generators, contrasted with multifamily. There's a lot of market value in the materials, and that's a dynamic combination that I think this is when, of course, this will move a lot of tons, and you're trying to move tons. So I think that Metro is in a position to hit a home run on this by moving aggressively in this area.
Hi, you're watching The Sustainable Region, and we're working our way through the 2011 Zero Waste Challenge Conference. It was an extremely knowledgeable group, including business professionals, government officials and staff, non-governmental organizations, and residents. The breakout sessions allowed everyone to exchange ideas, and then the Dragon's Den expert panel offered viewpoints from business, nonprofit, and industry. We've seen 3 of the groups, and there are 2 more. The priorities this round are business and institutions and product development.
An organization like ours, the Vancouver Board of Trade, could wade in on something like this in terms of educating our members and getting them to understand that there's benefit to be had by recycling.
You know, it's not as though we caffeinate someone else, put them in a tie, and send them off to work in the morning, right? It's us. and the fact of the matter is, diversion activities that you're conducting at home, you should be able to do at work.
I think the government has a role in helping the various industries and organizations that are trying to make this green economy work. So helping them out, not subsidizing their business, whether it's tax breaks or whatever, help them deliver a service that we're all asking for.
The notion that force producers to absorb EPR costs, that's a red herring. It won't change anything at all. I think the goal is a good one, and that's to hold producers responsible for end-of-life management. I agree with that, but it's going to be passed on to the consumer. At the end of the day, don't be under the illusion that the producer is actually paying for it.
I bet that Metro Vancouver and the municipalities buy hundreds of millions worth of stuff every year, and a lot of that stuff comes in way too much packaging. If Metro Vancouver and the municipalities said, we don't want that packaging, we won't buy from you unless you supply us without packaging or with very simple, easy to recycle packaging, it would start to have an impact on the businesses that supply governments as well as all of us as individuals.
Can we give a round of applause for our Dragon's Den?
Well, that's all for the Sustainable Region and our summary of the Zero Waste Challenge Conference. Who knew that waste could be so interesting? Like I say, it's being totally reframed in the way we think about it. Please share your thoughts at the metrovancouver.org Zero Waste Conference page. That's where you can watch conference videos and share them with your friends. As well, you can reach us by phone at 604-436-6794 or email us at sustainableregion@metrovancouver.org. The Zero Waste Challenge Conference, it was a day of direction, empowerment, and ideas, and we hope this show captured some of that excitement. And we welcome you to join in the conversation. I'm Vanessa Timmer. Thanks for watching.